welcome everyone back to Undiscussed territory. I am Michael, joined with my good friend Titus.
Yo.
Alright, so it has been crummy weather. We haven't worked too much. And
Well, you haven't. I have.
yeah, that's true. You've been real busy.
Yeah.
I haven't had to do too much work. But no, we recorded. We had already previously recorded this one podcast, but somehow it got deleted. So,
Well, it was like the file, the audio files were lost, so like everything was there, but I don't know. It was just
there was
like
no
couldn't
sound.
find the files, so unfortunately we lost an episode. The podcast gods stole it from us.
There you go.
But we will rise again, and here we are.
Here we are. So we're gonna talk again. This one, I want to talk more about this one just because it's one of my favorite things. It's what got me into the cryptozoology world, and that's good old Mr. Bigfoot.
Cryptozoology.
Oh, yeah.
A really fancy word for...
Made-up creatures?
Well, no, it's like, what is crypto? Like,
Crypto is cryptid.
Like...
Cryptid. Mysterious. Unknown.
Oh, okay. So it's like... Oh, yeah, I don't know. That's why I was just trying to figure out, like, cryptozoology.
Like trying to break it down to, what is it? The Latin term for cryptid.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Crypto.
No. Everything comes from Latin. I don't know. It's a dead language, but we sure as hell refer to it all the time. You know?
So anyway, this is the Bigfoot is what got you into and cryptozoology would be like the
cryptozoology was
Loch Ness monster would be cryptozoology.
Exactly. Good old Nessie, Chupacabra, La Chusa, which
I don't know,
ooh, okay. So all right, we're gonna do a little sidebar. The La Chusa is an owl-like creature that can take on the form of a either beautiful or hideous woman. And it's in Mexican folklore. And when I was working over the summer, I was talking to some guys. I had never heard too much about La Chusa.
Yeah.
And so I started bringing it up around them. And, they at first just were like, kind of giving me kind of bug-eyed, like, what do you know about La Chusa?
Right.
Never said anything, but then one of the guys, like, pulled me aside. I was like, Michael, stop talking about it right now. I was like, why? What's wrong? I'm, like, looking around. It's like, somebody listening? He's like, no. He's like, she can hear you, and if you keep talking about her, she'll come to find you. It's like, all right. And so he explained, basically, there's a good and there's an evil one. There's a good one that will come and bring you good luck.
Yeah.
And then there's an evil one that will carry away children or people. And eat them, kill them, whatever. He then went on to tell me about...
Is it the same one, and it's like dependent on the person what you see? Or there's
straight
like
up two different kinds.
Okay.
There's a hideous, grotesque one that's evil, and then a beautiful maiden that is good luck. And this is mostly in Mexican folklore.
Right.
But he was telling me how his father... No. His grandfather... So this was like over 100 years ago, when... To get to the nearest town, it was like a 2 or 3 day horse ride.
Right.
So he rode for a whole day, and, he was not too far from the town, but it was getting dark, so he's like, all right, I'm going to set up camp here underneath this tree. He sets up camp, and he's sitting there in the night, and he hears someone calling out, like, obviously Spanish, but I'm going to say it in English. It's like, hey, come here. Like a woman's voice, and he looks up and he sees like this huge bird-like creature in the tree, and he said that it spread its wings and started shaking them, and it freaked him out. So he grabbed his gun and shot it, and he heard like a screech of some kind of creature, and then a loud thud of it hitting the ground. And he's like, I'm not going to go check that out. And he just stayed by his fire, kept the fire real big, made sure he didn't go over there. Well, the next day when the sunlight finally came out, he went over to where it was, and he found where something had hit the ground. He found blood, feathers, and human hair. And he was like, what the crap? And he hopped on his horse and just took off riding. When he got to the town, the people there were all kind of like freaking out. And he's like, he rides in. He's like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, a young woman just came into town. She'd been shot. She just died. She made it into town, but it was too late. She seeked medical attention, and she died.
Huh.
And the story is, like, some say that you can kill the lechuza. Some people say you have to swear at it, and it damages them. But supposedly he shot it, and whenever that happens, it will take on a human form.
Right.
And so in my head, I'm thinking, is like, this guy straight up killed a crazy girl.
Yeah.
There was a crazy woman sitting in a tree, wanting to mess with him, and he shot her.
And he got like spooked and just
she came into town. She was like, it was very strange. Like, she obviously wasn't there because they said she came into town. She was naked. She wasn't wearing any clothes.
Oh, that's really weird.
It's super weird.
What if he just said that story and he like really like did something completely different? I mean, did they didn't get a story from her? She died before she could like give a account of what happened.
Nobody knew who she was. She just said that someone had shot her, but that's it. But this is also, I mean, I don't know his grandfather personally, but I know him personally.
Yeah.
And he is probably the sweetest guy you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
If his grandfather was anything like him, he was just another sweetheart, like just trying to go get some food or supplies for his family.
Yeah. Huh.
I have no idea, but this was in not Oaxaca, Zacatecas, Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where all that went down.
Huh. I've never heard lechuza. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's a bunch of them. It's not just like two of them. It's
like a whole whole species.
A species. Yeah. Huh.
There's the lechuza, the la chupacabra, but there used to be a show on Animal X when I'd go over to my grandmother's. I'd watch it late at night, and they would go over it was like kind of done eerily.
Right.
That was my favorite show to watch, and that's where they'd go over like the chupacabra and all the different creatures. So it'd give me nightmares for a little bit.
Yeah.
But then you get over it.
Yeah, no, I liked all that stuff too.
Oh.
I was super fascinated with Bigfoot when I was younger. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I was very disappointed with the last video we watched. Oh gosh, what's that guy's name? I can't remember his name, but it's on Netflix, and it's like Finding Bigfoot or something. But like they show actual pictures of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But that's the one that you and I watched, and it's like, that's a guy in a mask.
Yeah.
That's a guy with face paint on. You son of a bitch.
Yeah, a lot of them are just so easy, but I feel like if you want to believe it hard enough, then it's like, oh, even if it is, I don't know, like I feel like there's a lot of people that do believe it, and there's
people at my work. Whenever I brought up jokingly the lechuza at work. And this girl, who is maybe a few years older than me, was like, I remember Sunday morning, there was a lechuza trying to get us when we were going to the van, like going to church. It's like, it swooped down and swooped right over the van. She's legitimately believed that the lechuza was out there trying to get them as they darted from the house to the Suburban to get to church. Yeah.
I mean, I don't
just want to cuddle these people and be like, it's all right.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
It's all right. There's no boogeyman or anything.
No, your dad was probably running from drug dealers, and he was afraid that if you were out too long, you would get shot or something. But he said that to like cover it up,
No kidding.
I mean, you're a kid. You're impressionable. You make stuff up in your head very easily.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The slightest sound could be the creature from the Black Lagoon that you just watched the other night.
And man, I remember like laying in bed, I could see all kinds of things and shadows and windows and
I still to this day, that's why I like to sleep in a room that's completely black. And what it is that you can see a shadow.
Yeah.
And it's your brain desperately trying to create an image.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it basically, that's in what it is. It's a survival instinct.
Yeah.
And it's like you're supposed to be afraid. Because
Yeah,
like
I
people
hate
who
it.
see faces and stuff, they say their intelligence is higher, but also it's like means you're easier to survive. You know, because if you look into the darkness and you think you see a face, you're going to be far more alert.
Yeah. I definitely like I remember my sister's room growing up. Sometimes if I got scared, I would spend the night with her, and she had like curtains in her room that just looked like a bunch of faces everywhere. It was terrifying because they
What
were
the
like these
heck?
big, like poofy, like I don't know. It was weird.
Ugh.
It was terrifying. Yeah.
There was a before I went through this room that we're in right now and put like black electrical tape over all the little lights in here,
Yeah.
I could see perfectly in here. And that vent right above my bed, I remember I woke up one night and I could swear that it was like a gremlin or some sort of creature
No.
like sitting on a balcony looking over and smiling. It scared me so much that like I jumped up from bed and like ripped off my breathing machine and like started to run, and I was like, what am I doing?
Was it like glowing eyes or something?
It
How
wasn't
could you
glowing
even
eyes.
see
I
it?
could just see like a figure,
Yeah.
like some sort of like little gremlin figure, like sitting almost on like you know, in those old houses, the beams that went across the
Yeah.
ceiling, almost like one of those. Like he's just kind of sitting up there, just watching me.
That's creepy. It gives me
But
chills. I don't like that.
even to this day, I still have. I'll wake up from a dream. You know how
Kinda like
everybody does
night
that joke where it's
terrors
just
or
wake up like,
whatever.
huh, what, like that. I'll wake up believing one thing. Like, oh, perfect example, Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
When he plays that game, where he's the different person and he lives that guy's whole life.
Right, right.
When he wakes up, he's like, "Nope, I'm Morty." Like, I've had those mornings where I wake up and literally have to think, like, "No, those rules don't apply to this life."
Yeah. Oh
Like,
yeah. I've absolutely had dreams that are that realistic, and you wake up and you're like, wait, that didn't really happen. This is not. And most of the time, it's a relief because it's usually a bad dream that
yeah,
I'm like waking up from and like thinking someone's still really dead or something. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
the power of the mind, man.
Oh, it's crazy.
But yeah, now back to the cryptids and stuff. Yeah, I'd watch that Animal X, and that's what got me into it. And reading up on Bigfoot, and I actually worked in Arkansas. I think it was Arkansas, and there's a place called Little Creek, which is famous for it's it's like the air. It's just as famous as the Patterson footage.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of area where like Twin Creeks or two creeks, Split Cheek Creek or something like that. Some kind of
Were
weird.
you just there for like a week or something?
I was
you weren't
working
very
there,
long?
and there's a gas station that has a giant Bigfoot. Like when you drive by, it's just a big old hairy Bigfoot waving
Right.
at you, but it looks super realistic and it's terrifying looking. But I was talking to the locals and they were saying, "Oh yeah, no, we used to see Bigfoots over here." And
Yeah.
they talked about how they were just like this weird species that they saw a lot, and as time went on and everything got more populated, they saw less and less of them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wait, what? And they're like, yeah, no, it's not a big deal. They're like, they keep to themselves. It's like, the worst what they've had happen is we'll go hunting and a deer will be killed and they'll swipe it up.
Yeah.
It's like, what? It's like, y'all don't shoot them? And they're like, no, they're protected. They actually have a law so that you can't shoot them unless it's in defense and you have to prove that it was in self-defense. That's how much we believe in Bigfoot. We have laws protecting this creature.
In Arkansas, you're saying this is a law?
I believe it was Arkansas, yeah. That's where it was.
You don't remember where you worked?
I worked all over. I worked Arkansas, Oklahoma, Mississippi. Like it was one of those shitty little states. We worked in like the crappy little towns. Like, dude, I remember working in. We were just outside of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And we were asleep, and you just heard like knocking on the door, like a few ways down.
Right.
And my dad overheard some of the worker guys that we worked with, they were just like saying something in Spanish, and you heard a guy like, "Come on, open up the door, open up the door." My dad opened the door. He's like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "Hey, you want to buy some crack?" It was just some guy walking door to door, knocking on the hotel. It's like, "Hey, you want to buy crack?" And he didn't speak Spanish, and they didn't speak English, and they were trying to tell him like,
no thanks.
No.
Yeah.
But those are the towns that we stayed in. There was even one where.
Well, is it really any wonder then that they're seeing Bigfoot? If that's the kind of like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. They don't see him anymore in those areas. They said the more populated they got, the less they see him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they didn't see him anymore in this area. But it's always those. It was just. I remember it being heavily wooded.
Yeah.
It was one of those few forests that I could walk into, and I could understand like, oh, this is how people get disoriented and not know where they went.
Right.
Because it's the pine trees that are so close together. Yeah. It's just thick.
And when you turn around, you can't see where you came from, and you're
exactly.
Just kind of,
There's like always like a tree blocking somewhere to where like somebody could walk by and you see just bits and parts of them.
Yeah. Or, like we're talking about, your mind is playing tricks on you, and you're creating things that aren't really there.
Who's there? What's that?
I feel like all of the quote-unquote evidence that I've seen, like pictures and videos and stuff like that, I'm just not convinced. It just is not realistic enough. Or, like,
is that it's just something your mind is just so unfamiliar with that if you were to be face to face with the real thing, your mind just would not be able to comprehend. Like, this is real. Like, to see something that close to humanoid.
I could see being in denial at first, being like, "Oh, that's
like that guy who supposed like what like that's my argument. It's like you look at him and it's like these don't look real at all, but at the same time, what if they are real?" And we're just so desensitized by all the fake sightings that we're just like, no, that's not real. There's no way. Like, our minds just can't comprehend like something like that being real. Such as the giant squid for so long. When I was a kid, that was a cryptid.
Yeah.
No one believed. I would stay up till freaking 3 a.m. watching a stupid National Geographic or whatever show. Finding the giant squid.
Yeah.
And they'd never freaking see it. It would piss me off every time because they'd be like, "We're gonna see one." It's like sitting in a submarine at the bottom.
Well, yeah, and even when they found that giant squid, I was still like, is it real though? Like, did they really find it?
Is
like,
it a lure?
You know what I mean?
Is it a lure that just got stuck to the camera?
But I mean,
they weren't even looking for it that time. The actual pictures that they got, they weren't even looking for it. They were just they were doing measurements or something, and the tentacle had grabbed on to the wire, and the wire was frayed or something. Somehow the tentacle got stuck and it got ripped off. So they actually got like evidence of it. It pulled up the tentacle that was severed, and it was still trying to reach out and grab.
Huh.
And there's the giant squid and the more terrifying colossal squid.
I don't think I've heard of the colossal squid.
So the colossal squid...
We're just bouncing all over the place today.
We're talking cryptids today.
What does that mean, cryptid? I don't know what that means.
Maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't.
Well, I'm going to look it up now, though.
All right, go ahead and look it up.
You keep talking.
I'm going to talk about the colossal squid. The colossal squid...
Cryptid.
That's from, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where rather than having, I think, 2 of its tentacles or arms, it doesn't have suction cups, but instead has it's made out of the same material as its beak, but they're hooks that are on a swivel and can swivel like 180, 360 degrees. It's like an organic, like, swiveling hook.
Cryptids. Cryptids.
Mm-hmm.
Presumed by followers of the cryptozoology pseudo-scientific subculture to exist on the basis of anecdotal or otherwise insufficient evidence considered by mainstream science. So it's like folklore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we're talking about, like Bigfoot. Big feet.
Mm-hmm. But
That one guy, that video,
beautiful hair.
Yeah.
That's the best one. I've seen so many of them, man. I could tell you for hours. My favorite one was this family who communicated with them.
Yeah.
And they talked about them like they were Native Americans.
Uh-huh.
The Bigfoots, they were saying how one year it had been super rainy. And she said she heard a knock at the door and was like, oh, who could be here? And she went, and this huge creature was sitting on her porch. And he looks over his shoulder at her. And he looks to her and puts his hand out and goes, garlic. Garlic. Because garlic can be used to, like, deter mosquitoes, supposedly.
Uh-huh.
And she said that the mosquitoes were so bad that they were looking for garlic. There was no wild garlic for some reason. It had drowned out because it was submerged underwater. But she gave them garlic to rub onto their skin, like gave them a few cloves of it. And he took it back to their tribe. They talked about seeing them hunting. There was a field where they could watch them hunt. They said they would walk on bipedal, but then when they would go to grab the deer, they would get onto all fours and just barrel across. And he's like, I could see them like ripping the legs off of the deer or whatever. And the description.
And where is that supposed to be?
This was in. I think it was in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Somewhere in the States.
Yeah, it was somewhere here in the States. But yeah, it was just like, yeah, he came up here asking for some garlic, but he talked, like a deep from his throat, like he's clearing it, like, call him.
Garlic.
The precious. The precious. Garlic. But, I mean, you have those stories, and I think those are just crazy people making this stuff up. He showed them.
I feel like most of those are.
Yeah, he showed them their tree stand. He's like, yeah, this is where I'd observe them. This is the famous field where... And they talked about how they would almost do like wolves or people would do, where they would just kind of corral the animal and then...
Yeah. Well, there's like... I'm trying to remember who it was. Some like scientific... Or it was like... I don't know if he was, I can't remember, but basically the story about these two guys that had this alien encounter and they were out on their boat and they had this whole thing and they were, like lost 4 or 5 hours of time and they got abducted by aliens and stuff. And so they like tell this whole story and it's super convincing. And so he's like, oh, I want to go back out with you. Like, let's go out. And, so they, all get back in the boat and go out, and they've got this giant jug of moonshine. And he's like,
oh my gosh.
He's like, we'll start drinking some moonshine. And he was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, we didn't see the aliens until this whole thing of moonshine was gone. And he's like,
you idiots.
Are you serious?
Are you out of your fucking minds?
He was like, oh yeah, man. I mean, I wasn't drunk when I came back, after my abduction 5 hours later.
It's just them
they
getting
basically
drunk.
passed out and like
do butt stuff. Hey, probe me.
That was their excuse.
It's actually just them out on the boat experimenting.
We can't tell anyone we're gay. We'll say we got abducted by aliens instead.
We'll drink till we forget, brother.
Wow. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, that could absolutely be what happened.
I'm telling you.
So yeah, I mean, I do think that most of it is something like that. And I think that, all you need is like a hyperactive imagination paired with the wrong substance, whether that be alcohol or drugs or, pharmaceuticals or whatever. People just get like doped up and crazy and like see crazy shit that's like, most likely not real, and you're like,
Or it could just be something like he randomly saw a deer up on its hind legs trying to get something up off a branch.
Right,
trying to reach for that berry.
But I mean, I've said this before. It's like, why is it always coming to those, like, kind of people? Why isn't it like...
But for this instance, it's a little more believable. It's the people who are always in the woods.
Yeah.
And my only argument with that is it's just so strange that this is all over the world.
Right.
There is Bigfoot stories all over the world.
For sure.
And that's what's so strange. There's even
And
there was a diary by a Native American princess
yeah.
where she talked about the red-haired men, the red-haired giants, who were cannibalistic. And they're apparently, like, they would torment all the tribes of wherever this was. I think it was in Kansas. But they would torment the tribes. And there is one hunt that all the men went out on the hunt. And when they came back, apparently they had waited for them to leave, and then they attacked the village and took a bunch of women, took a bunch of children, and later that night they could see up in the mountains like all these fires, and they could hear screams like they were eating the people there. And that's when this was one of the first like peace treaties among all these tribes. They were just like, they hit y'all, they hit us. We gotta fucking do something. We're tired of them coming after us.
Yeah.
And so these tribes came together. They found a cave where they were, and they filled up the front of the cave with all this dry brush, and then they set it on fire, and they said, if you surrender and want to live in peace, we will put the fire out. But if you do not, you will die right now. And they said they heard a roar, and they're like, all right. And they just let the cave fill with smoke, and they died. And what's strange is you read this story, and then some bones were found in a cave similar to the same description by a farmer who was gathering bat guano. Not only did he find that, but he found large sandals. He found large, like, wood carvings, almost like of, like, ducks. Like something you would set out, like hunters would set out in the pond to, like, attract ducks and stuff.
And that was their, like,
they found
bone
pottery.
structure and all that stuff the same as a human?
It was giant. It was huge.
It was giant?
Giant. No, and...
like, how giant? Like 7 feet tall or like 9 feet tall? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I think they were talking like 7 foot tall.
Yeah. Which is like, there's 7 foot tall people.
Yes, there are, but that you also have to think about, is it gigantism, which is a defect. These people were apparently living all right. They didn't have a sickness, because this was a tribe that they talked about, that they lived alongside. Not peacefully, obviously. And when you start getting into that, what happened to these bones? Where are these people at? That's when, I told you about this last time, that's when you start diving into the conspiracy. What was it? The Smithsonian conspiracy, where it's like anytime giant bones are found, it's documented. A group comes out, they gather them, they do all the protocol that you're supposed to do, but then the bones just disappear.
Yeah.
And they're never seen again.
They are like stolen, always.
Possibly stolen. Yeah. Just like the Bigfoot hand that's held by the monks up at the monastery. They allowed one person, the scientist, to like take a pinky bone.
Yeah.
And on his trip back, like, it got lost in customs. They went through.
See, I just like it's just a real convenient story.
It's a very convenient story, but the hand is still there for you to go see. You can go to this temple, check it out, and there's the paw right there for you to look at. It's a giant freaking mummified hand.
Huh. And you've seen pictures of it?
I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that it is definitely a global phenomenon. Just like dragons are, but that doesn't mean that dragons ever really existed.
Yeah.
I mean, do we have
how do we know they weren't
dinosaurs that, maybe were kind of dragon-like? Possibly,
Pteranodons.
But I mean, like, humans and dinosaurs never really coexisted. There was like a few species of dinosaurs that technically made it past the like deep freeze or whatever when that huge comet hit, or a huge asteroid hit, and started the ice age.
Yeah.
Right? There was like that giant explosion and everything, and then
that's
like
when
the whole thing covered with like sand and dirt and stuff from that, and then it went into an ice age.
Yeah. And then the mammals came.
Yes, exactly. And then there was the rise of the mammals.
That's what's really interesting to me. as well. What is it? You go into the Congo and you talk to these people, and they're like, what was it? Makila Kembe,
Yeah.
which is another. They believe it's a dinosaur. These tribesmen talk about it, and they're just. But what's crazy is like they'll pull up a book and they're like, "Hey, show us what this creature looks like," and then they'll turn to this one dinosaur that we had found early bones of, that it was not too terribly long ago, that we possibly could have crossed paths at one point. And they're just like, oh yeah, that's it. And it's like, how do these people know what it looks like? They've never
Right.
seen this. And it's like, well, maybe they're lying. It's like, what do they have to, why are they don't know about fame. They don't know about any of that. They're just telling us, yeah, we see this thing. We'll set up fishing nets over here. It's very territorial. It has killed some of us. Like,
Yeah.
It's I think it's an herbivore. They say it's an herbivore, but they call it the Makila Kimbe. I think that is supposed to mean the
And where is it? The Amazon or something? Yeah.
in the Congo.
In the
They call it the
Okay.
it's like river mover or
Yeah.
river stopper or something.
Yeah.
Because it's so large, like it will be in the water and just
Yeah.
it can change the direction of the river supposedly.
Why isn't there a movie about that? I want to see a movie about that. That'd be a good.
Congo.
Oh, it's in Congo?
I think they, if not that, but
I
it's,
actually never saw Congo.
you never saw Congo?
No,
It's
but
terrible. But
oh, really?
it
I
was-
wanted to when I was a kid so bad, but my parents wouldn't let me see it because,
people get ripped apart.
Oh, really?
They run into these like weird. It reminds me of the blue monkeys from Evolution.
Oh, yeah.
They remind me of those things. It's just these ancient gorillas that nobody had seen, and they're supposed to. I think they're supposed to be remnants of like Gigantopithecus. But they're just these giant apes, and they just like rip people apart.
Yeah.
It was at the time it was supposed to be like the most gruesome stuff on TV.
Yeah.
And then you go back and watch it, and you're like, "What is this?"
Yeah. It came out after Jurassic Park, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like, a few years after Jurassic Park, but it was like, yeah.
I think it was right.
And that was the one that had like the monkey thing, and it could talk. It would like right.
Yeah, it would do sign language.
And it would like translate it or whatever.
Coco. He would do sign language, and he tried to communicate, and I think they were just like crush his skull.
So, do you think that Bigfoot is like a species that is basically died out and is almost extinct, or do you think there's like it seems like with Google Earth and with all of that stuff that it would be much easier to locate settlements, and you know what I mean? It would be harder to hide.
But at the same time, what if this thing was this is something else that's come up a lot lately, and they're like, if this thing is as intelligent as we think it is, how do we know it has not adapted to just like not leave a trace? To like gorillas,
be super swift.
Gorillas, they'll all nest. They're constantly moving. They don't
Yeah.
permanently stay in one area. They'll leave nests and all behind.
Yeah. I think Bigfoot's supposed to be like a forager, right? Mostly So you think it's like a different species of like Homo, like erectus and Homo, you know what I mean? Like all the different hominids or whatever, right? Like
I think it's some kind of weird descendant of Gigantopithecus, or maybe
so
even
you think it's more
altogether.
monkey than human.
Yeah,
but like it can have colonies and build fires and make pottery and all of that stuff. You don't think that it has to be human? It has to be like to have culture and like to maintain a society.
I don't know. You see, I mean, have you seen that video of the chimp that makes a fire and then cooks dinner? It's the most terrifying thing.
Well, yeah, because it's been trained to do that. It's not just like out in the middle of the wild creating fire. You know what I mean? Like there's pre-existing human conditions creating that adaptation. But and it is an evolution for sure, but it's not like you know what I mean? It's not like it could replicate that in the wild ever.
Yeah, you're right, because I'd forgotten there was a study where they taught a chimp sign language,
Yeah.
And then they introduced him back to his group, and he used that as a power.
Yeah.
And he became the alpha chimp.
Yeah.
He wouldn't teach anyone else. That's how he became the alpha chimp, was just by like, I can sign language, you can't.
Huh.
And that's what was an interesting thing, where us as humans will pass on the knowledge, but them, they're just like, no, I want to maintain this power. I need to hold control over everyone.
Right.
So only I can know this.
Yeah.
And that's what's really questionable. And so that's where it starts becoming a line, and you need to figure out, are we talking giants, like human giants, or are we talking Bigfoots like some other creature? What were the giants in the biblical?
I think if I think of a Bigfoot as being more a like evolutionary descendant of, or like an evolutionary offshoot of humans, and like, you know, maybe has a lot of, you know, I don't know.
All right, here's a good question.
But like super hairy because it evolved in super cold climates, or like because it was out in the, I don't know. I mean, we are hairy.
Yeah.
Or like, not always, but I mean, I'm hairy. Definitely have like hair on my body. If you were never wearing clothes and that evolved for hundreds of years, like, I don't know, I could see it. You know what I mean? Like evolving and adapting into that thing.
So should Bigfoot have rights? Should he be allowed to vote? Who would he vote for?
Well, I mean, if you were ever able to find a Bigfoot, I think like you would have to, like, your whole thing about the garlic and all that thing, was that supposed to be a Bigfoot? That thing that came up and asked for garlic? That has to be some kind of human. Like, I think that there's like the really fascinating thing of like, maybe it's not actually a ape man, but it's actually these like, no, it's these you know, people that have lived out in the wild and are basically feral humans, and they're wearing like furs all over their body for, you know, protection, and they've got like layers of furs on or whatever, and it looks like they're hairy if you see them from a distance, or have close encounters with them, but you're drunk, and you know what I mean, like out of your like
drunk
smoking peyote, you know what I mean? Like, I could see it being that, like some kind of like group of, you know, like giant humans that are like out in the wild, like, you know, like
that's been the debate in the crypto area. About the red giants, the story that I told you. Some say that they are giants. Others say that they are like a species of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But the people who say they're giants are like, no, they're not Bigfoots, because they had a culture. They had
pottery, they had fire, and they were like killing them ritualistically, it sounded like, or I mean, I don't know.
Or they just straight up eating them, like, hey, these guys are way easier to catch than them buffalo.
I mean, I could see it being just another tribe, or even like, what if it was like just Americans, you know, like with red hair, and they were tall, and they were like.
Well, that's the thing. They said like these men were huge. They actually.
They said that
they had red hair all over their body, and they weren't like completely hairy. They were just like not complete fur, but they were red.
The hair that they had was red. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
but they were huge, and they could like pull a man off of a horse, supposedly.
Oh, just like pick him up, like standing. And,
gotcha. Come here.
But all of that could also be like the you know, folklore tradition, carrying it down and making it. You know, it's like we talked about, I think last time, how that sometimes your mind doesn't want to accept what you saw, and you have to like create a story around it to, you know, like you know what I mean, make it seem, help your mind wrap around it.
Yeah.
And if it's something that's like passed down from generation to generation, it gets like more outlandish every time it's told, and you know what I mean, it gets kind of becomes folklore, and then it's really hard to separate the truth from the fiction.
Yeah, it becomes what was that experiment with chimps? The Daisy experiment.
What was that?
That's the one where they put a banana at the top of a ladder.
Uh-huh.
And they have a group of chimps. One chimp goes up to grab it, and water sprays all the other chimps. Is sprayed out of the ceiling onto all the other chimps. It's cold water. So then they, they start to learn, hey, whoever goes up there to get that banana is not going to get sprayed. And so they learn not to go up there. So then they'll introduce a new monkey. And just as he's starting to go up there, they all grab him and beat the crap out of him. And then they end up pulling those monkeys out one by one and introducing new ones in until they have an entire group. They just
don't go for the
until they have an entire group that's like, we don't go for that banana.
And
why?
I don't know.
Why don't we go for it? Oh no, you're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Get your ass kicked. And so that's what these people are. It's just like
it's maintaining the tradition. Yeah.
Changing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that. But Bigfoot's definitely not that kind of story.
Yeah.
It's it goes from. And do you think Yeti is like about Bigfoot too? It's another thing.
Yeah, it's just like.
What about the abominable snowman?
Same thing as a Yeti.
Yeti, yeah, but white or whatever, like Arctic,
white,
like a polar bear.
Mm-hmm. It's a completely different creature. It's just those are in the Himalayas, I believe. But oh my gosh, I love talking about this stuff. It's just so interesting to me. Like we could go on forever because it's one of those cultural things where everybody has a story about it. Even in Macedonia, like the younger generations didn't know any folklore, but you ask an older person and you're gonna be there all night. Yeah. It's like, all right, let's start drinking this rakia, and I'm going to tell you every folklore story there is.
So that should be your TV show. You should go around to all these different cultures.
That's already been done.
And eat their food with them, and do a recipe and a creepy story from their culture, and do like Anthony Bourdain style with some folklore mixed in. Like what's that show on HBO that was it's also a podcast, and it's all about the folklore, all that. Oh man, what's it called?
Taboo?
No. Everyone's angry at me right now. I'm like trying to think of it.
I don't know. I don't watch a lot of HBO. I watch Westworld every now and then.
It's HBO. It's amazing.
I'm not doubting that it's amazing.
It's better just than the
TV. Peasants don't have full access to HBO.
I only have it because of our friends' parents, and we have login information from them. But I can never remember. It's just like on our PS4, which is like we have all the apps and stuff from that, so we just use that. So she put in the login, and we have it now.
Did y'all trade with them? Because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, they have our Hulu account. And my wife's parents use it too, so it's.
If they ever get to the
point,
why
are we talking about this? That's not even.
I don't know. You're trying to tell me about some HBO show, but no, that's what's so fascinating about cryptids. There's something for everything. The Japanese folklores are really weird. The Japanese have one. It's more orangutan-like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't for the life of me tell you the name of it.
That's something I wonder, like, why is it that it's always like the stories fluctuate depending on the culture of the people and like the natural surroundings. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what was it? In the Vietnam War, there are stories that came out of there of a hairy, giant ape-man creature that was killing both sides. Both sides were terrified of it.
Yeah.
Both sides were fighting it. There are stories of this thing. They would get into a gun battle and people would be getting killed by boulders and not spears, but boulders and huge rocks chucked from out of nowhere, getting knocked out and destroyed. And whole time we think we're fighting the Vietnam, and then the Vietnam guys think they're fighting us, and then all of a sudden we're just like, why were you guys throwing rocks at us? We weren't throwing rocks at you. You were throwing rocks at us. We didn't throw rocks at you. What the hell was throwing rocks? And there's like a lot of people were saying that they would see these giant, huge, like almost humanoid things, like chunking rocks, and then they'd run into the brush and hide.
Yeah.
A lot of the wars, that even in World War,
wasn't it in Vietnam that they like were like dropping like LSD like bombs? Like, is that true? Maybe I'm making that up. I know that there was a lot of drugs and stuff in the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
But which like I think could account for a lot of that, because you're like tripping in the middle. I can't imagine that, tripping in the middle of like a battlefield.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness.
Could you imagine just smoking a big old joint and then like...
But supposedly in low doses, psilocybin really helps your sense of acuity, your sense of depth perception, and everything becomes way more vivid, and you see all the details of everything a lot more.
Do you think that's why they were doing it, because it kind of helped, but then they went a little overboard? And
that's why I think that's probably they were like testing it or whatever, and people maybe that were sensitive to it.
We found the super soldier serum, Captain America mushrooms.
But they think that that's maybe like what when the apes came down from the trees,
the whole evolutionary thing.
The whole evolutionary thing. They think that when
that's what caused the brain to boost, because they would eat those, and then they learned to wade out into the water, which taught them to stand up, and they were eating fish, and that also helped with their brain development.
Yeah, they were able. Yeah, so I could see something like that, like people just hallucinating and seeing it. But I mean, yeah, I wish someone would find it, but also then you have all the like conspiracy and the cover-ups. Like, there's been plenty of them found, but they can't. But like, why would the government? What incentive do they have to keep that? You know what I mean? Like, why?
Maybe they created it.
Oh, you think it's like a genetically? But no, it's something that's been around way before. Like,
it has been, but at the same, I mean, who was it? Stalin tried to create guerrilla soldiers.
Yeah,
he tried to impregnate, I think it was female orangutans with the sperm of men, and then they had women who were supposedly. They tried to impregnate them.
For what purpose? Like,
to create like these super soldiers, to where it's just like they're part ape, part human, and he can just be like, go do this, like train them to do exactly what he said. Dude,
aren't you glad Stalin wasn't around when there was stuff like CRISPR? You know what CRISPR is? That like gene editing software that they have now, where you can go in and like literally like cut out portions of the DNA coding and like,
see this strand right here? That's what gives your family cancer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll just take that. We'll just snip that one out and add in this thing instead. And it's like, literally the designer baby thing is going to be in the next. It's still really, it's happening already, I think, but it's
how
still
you get children of the corn, man.
It's really, really creepy what all of that stuff can do, but it also could And the crazy thing is, it's something that like you can buy the kit online. Anyone can make it. Like, anyone can have a CRISPR kit. So there's no regulation for people like crossbreeding animals and trying to do.
Oh no, that's how the furries. That's how they create
monsters.
Furries.
Like, what do you mean? That's how they create?
That's
furries?
How the people are finally gonna like breed like a human and a dog, and he's just gonna fuck that dog man all the time.
Like a monster in their garage.
Oh, I just got
like
nauseous.
Sex
They're creating sex creatures.
No, I mean, I don't think it's that so much. But I mean, I don't know. That's just the thing. That's what's creepy about it, is like there's no way to regulate it, and there's kind of no end to. I mean, I think it's super, early on in the development of it. So it's like, what is it going to be like in 10 or 15 years when it's super refined, and you can like. You
got a hillbilly out in the hill country creating rabbit people, like, yeah, come here, Thumper. I got you something to thump.
No. no. I mean, I don't think there's never been a.
Everyone's gonna be a.
Weren't you saying something about? And they were like crossbreeding human and animals in Russia or something.
Literally
supposedly?
just said that it was Stalin. He was trying to create.
No, I know. I thought it was something recently. Like I thought you were saying something. There was like some kind of successful.
Oh no, there's a head transplant.
A head transplant.
Because he had been practicing on dogs for a long time, and recently there was.
I still don't believe that. World's first human head transplant a success, professor says. November 17th, 2017.
Yeah, there it is.
The world's first human head transplant has been carried out on a corpse in China. It was a dead person. According to a controversial Italian doctor who said Friday that he and his team are now ready to perform the surgery on a living person. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, no way. Dr. Sergio Canavero, chief of the Turin Advanced Neuromodulation Group, said the operation was carried out by a team led by Dr. Xiaoping Ren, who last year successfully grafted a head onto a monkey's body.
Yep.
The first human transplant on human cadavers has been done. A full head swap between brain-dead organ donors is the next stage.
Yeah.
And that is the final step for the formal head transplant for a medical condition which is imminent. Within the next 2 years, blah, blah, blah. They like reconnected the spine, the nerves, the blood vessels.
Imagine how difficult that would be to rehook everything back together.
Is this real though? Like, I don't.
Because Sergio brought it up to me back when I worked at Target. This was back in 2000. It was around the time of that. Remember that zombie attack in Florida? I'm using air quotes if y'all can't see. Or I know you can't see.
Air. You just have to say it.
Yeah, air quote. Or quote zombie attack quote in Florida. The guy who was on bath salts or whatever. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember.
Because it was from that
so
news
weird.
report. Because he had mentioned a Russian doctor was tampering with it, and then back in 2017 he said somebody had done it. I thought it was the same Russian doctor, but I guess it was Chinese doctor, William Ping.
Yes, but I think it was
Italian doctor was leading it.
Well, no, it was in China where the thing was done in China. And the doctor, the chief of the group was like the guy, the Dr. Sergio Canavero or whatever. So he sounds like maybe Italian, but yeah, I don't know. That's weird. And the thing is, I'm like trying to look. I don't really see it.
It's not going into detail or anything.
Well, I'm just trying to find other places that.
Welcome to BuzzFeed.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like a bunch of them are like from the New York Post, which I'm like, I don't really know much about that, but.
Yeah.
I mean, it's creepy that they did that too. I just can't imagine that ever working. Like, how would you.
You would literally have to, like they're saying, reconnect every blood vessel, every nerve.
But you have like the whole spinal column, and you know what I mean? Like
you cut the spinal cord open, and there's like all those different veins and arteries and nerves, and you have to reconnect each one of those to the exact one.
But like if you sever the spinal cord, that's like your nerve center for your whole body. You can't just like sew a nerve.
At the time, we couldn't do it, but we're manipulating genes at this point, bro. I can go on to Google and get a gene kit and splice
So you
out
think that
chronic masturbating, and now my son's able to focus.
So you think that there may be a species of Bigfoot that are like some kind of genetically modified like experiment gone wrong or something?
I'm just saying I know that's what Stalin practiced. Like, what if we're not told something like, hey, this is something that happened? And then during Vietnam War, they're like...
But they've definitely been around. I mean, they've been in a
Yeah, they've been around forever.
I wonder how far back Bigfoot culture goes. Like, were they talking about Bigfoot in the medieval days? You know what I mean? Like, it definitely sounds like a culture thing of Native American, history, and maybe some in like the Himalayas with the Yeti and stuff like that, and in India with what's it called in India? Is it the Yeti there?
It's the Yeti there. I can't remember what it's called though.
No, it's the yeah. I mean, just depending, I guess, on what part.
Yeah.
But
they have an actual name for it. I don't know what it is. Something crazy. But yeah, they don't know if that's an actual creature or if it's a god or.
What do you mean a god?
Well, they got Hinduism. It's got a god for everything.
Oh, right. Just like something they make up.
Oh, damn it! No, that's Chinese. I was about to bring up Son Goku, but the monkey god. But that's Chinese, I think, folklore. Yeah, that's Chinese.
Yeah.
He's the trickster, like Loki.
All right. Well, have we talked about this enough? You feel like you covered all the things? I don't feel like we talked about anything at all. We just like talked in a circle.
That's fine. That's what's fun about these. I like doing these just for fun. This will be our filler episode, our middle finger to everyone listening. It's like, all right, they're going to talk about this. Nope, we're going all over the place.
Yeah, this was definitely... I mean, it was interesting. I'm not saying it was boring, but it just was not structured at all, and I don't feel like we really, like... I don't know. If you listen to this, if you're still listening to this right now, like, either you really are interested in Bigfoot, but I don't feel like we talked about enough facts or specifics. We're just, like, randomly talked about...
Of course. This is one where you're not going to have any facts or specifics. Yeah, Pacifics.
It's a Pacific fact.
We're not going to solve world hunger or anything on this podcast. We're not going to get to the bottom of the Bigfoot. Oh, that's what it is. We're not going to find the answers. If you're looking for answers, you're on the wrong podcast. If you're just looking to fuck around and burn a few hours. Sorry if you were looking for the meaning of life in this thing, because we are not going to cover that. But no, we'll have more structured episodes. I'm going to be talking about next episode will be about giants. It will be structured. It's going to get biblical.
You're going to get biblical with it?
We're going to talk about
You're going to talk about like David and Goliath? Yeah. And like Goliath and his other like group of homies.
What brothers. Were they? The nymphomaniacs or
Nymphomaniacs.
Yeah.
Nymphomaniac's like a sex addict.
Oh, what are the giants called? The Nephilites?
Nephilim, I think. Like,
close enough, yeah.
But no, that's not what the giants are called.
Yeah, the Nymphomaniacs.
That's a different thing.
Oh, that's not those. I thought those were the fallen.
Nephilim are like supposedly like a
pre-man.
Or like they're like fallen angels, right? They're like,
yeah, that's what I thought. The Nephilim were the offspring of the fallen angels.
Yeah, they're like when
and that's what they believe. That's
when,
what like
demons came to Earth and like had sex.
Ladies, have you heard of an orgy?
Like Nephilim.
We're at this place called Sodom and Gomorrah.
I don't think that's what Goliath was. I think he was like
just a giant.
Because like
from what I understood, I thought that he was the offspring of a fallen angel. That's what I thought.
Well, maybe we'll have to talk about it next week.
Yep. Also, I don't want to give too much away. But what?
Well, no, it's fine. I was just gonna say, are you gonna talk about like modern day giant things too, not just like the Bible?
We're gonna talk about
there's the Bible,
supposed encounters in modern day in Afghanistan, all over the world. Once again, just like Bigfoot, this is
in Afghanistan's all over the world.
Afghanistan's all over the world.
You're just like middle finger with your eyes, like
my eyes are flipping you off as hard as they possibly can.
Okay, so
all right, we're done. All right, love y'all. Bye.
Peace.